Good afternoon. Market news now. Shares in Asia were mixed as stocks in Hong Kong led gains regionally. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index closed 1.9% higher. The Shanghai Composite on mainland China closed little changed. And when we look at the European markets, those stocks were muted, searching for direction after a volatile week. The mood stateside was more cautious, with futures edging lower after the major indexes closed little changed on Friday, while investors are shaking off concerns to a weaker than expected labor market report that came from the US on Friday afternoon. Major banks on Wall Street will kick off their third quarter earnings this week, with JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo and Citigroup all due to report starting on Wednesday. To talk to us about how all of this is likely to play out going into the week, we are joined by Bright Khumalo from Investec Asset Management. Bright, thank you so much for your time. How would you characterize the start to the JSE this week? It's Monday. It's around 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yes, I mean, it's a beautiful day here in Joburg. It's nice and sunny. The markets are reflecting that as well. We're up about 1.3% in the green. Some of the companies that are doing well. In the top 40, we have Kumba Iron Ore, which is up 7.5%. Anglo's up 3.4%. BHP Billiton up 3.4%. In the losers column, we've got things like Mondi, Napier Rock Castle and Cecil. So all of those, a bit in the red. So most of the companies are actually in the green there, which is good for the JSE. And if we just, quickly look at the scorecard, year on year, the JSE, is up about 20%, just over 20%. Even year to date, it's up double digits, closer to 13%. So it's looking good for the JSE overall.
So the one thing that caught my attention, and it's quite interesting that you spoke about the JSE overall, is that a company called CSG Holdings announcing that people speculated that it may actually delist following the ARC offer. But the broader theme around that is the delistings that the JSE has endured since 2015 to 2020. 137 companies, according to the Business Times. Is that concerning? I mean, 37 companies in the past 5 years versus the 83 new listings over that period. Does that concern you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a net negative, right? You want to have more companies listing than the ones that are delisting, and you want an active market overall, and you want a lot more participants, to be buying and selling these shares at all the times. And here in South Africa, you found that, the bigger businesses or the bigger asset managers are the ones that are buying and selling shares amongst themselves, which basically limits, exposure to these shares, to those big entities, as compared to a much broader market like the US market, where you find a lot of, individuals like you and I who actually participate in the market. It's very different in that way. But, coming back to the issue of listings and delisting, the JSE has to, do something very special to convince young and smaller startups to actually come and list in the JSE or have aspirations to list on the JSE, because most of them that we know of, are eyeing things like the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ.
Right. When you look at the news coverage on a daily basis, and I can imagine you go through a whole host of news events over the weekend and during the day, are there any false negatives for you, and are there ones that actually concern you?
This is a tough question because I don't actually read the news much. I'm the worst person to ask this. I don't even watch TV. But with regard to some of the market themes, that we've been seeing,
That's okay. It's a question I can leave anyone a little stumped here, and it's actually a nice follow through into my next question, which would have been about the whole inflation theme, whether that was a false negative or that was, one that, is something that you're concerned about. It certainly has the central banks concerned.
Well, I was heading there, right, before you guys started laughing at me, but okay. With regards to inflation, I mean, you look at why inflation is a concern, especially for growth companies, is because most of them are over-leveraged, meaning they've borrowed a lot because they were betting on the fact that rates are going to stay lower for longer. And you find that, old school type businesses that can increase their prices as inflation increases, those businesses are going to do well. But you find ourselves that, because people are so used to actually grouping these businesses as just growth stocks and not looking at the individual balance sheets, some of these technology companies actually have zero debt, but they're also actually losing out in terms of gains, when these rates are increasing. So there will definitely be opportunities that, present themselves because the market is just discounting shares that shouldn't be discounted that much because they're being sold as a basket rather than looking at individual bases. This is why we love direct investing.
Right, there's 3 months left to the year, 9 months gone by. What would you say is the defining theme so far?
Sure. I think we're still going to be watching what the Fed is doing in terms of interest rates. We're going to be watching the U.S. government and their ability to pay back, their loans as well. As we've seen, basically they came to an agreement to actually increase temporarily the debt ceiling there. So that's going to be those type of themes that drive, global markets. But also you have to watch China because now they sort of stepping back in terms of, basically bringing uncertainty in the public markets, that side, as I don't want to say they're cracking down on most industries, but I think they understand the implications of what it means in the market every time they come out with something like that.
All right, Bright, thank you so much for your time. That is Bright Khumalo from Investec Asset Management, taking us into the week and what we can expect, and of course, touching on what he thinks will be the defining theme for the year. We'll get a gauge in terms of a rest of our market watchers for the week in terms of what they believe has been the defining theme this year. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Nompumelelo Sizeba will have more news for you.